Black?
He goes, "You're not wearing black. You're wearing polka dots."
That's exactly it. You always ask us a question, then we're like, oh, it's black.
No, that's not.
You're so dumb.
That color,
to think that's black.
that color is polka dots.
Black. Polka dots. Polka dots.
Didn't know polka dots was a color.
Well, now it is.
Dalmatian.
on the
You're
color wheel.
Dalmatian.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Hi guys, thanks for joining.
close it.
Hi guys, thanks for joining.
Close it,
This
close
is Essence of Life. Today we're going to be talking about how we view the world. As you can see, we're squeezed in really close, and that's because we're also live on TikTok and our phone stand broke, so it's taped up on the TV. I'm Amanda Armagast.
I'm Melissa Haber.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence.
So the way that we have this going is I'm going to ask questions. I'm a social media expert. Alyssa's a PA, and obviously Dr. Abbasi is a neurosurgeon. These are life-based questions, and you'll get different perspectives from each of us.
And I'm supposed not to tell people if they say something wrong.
Well, no, that's not for this one. We already know Alyssa and I will be right.
Well, then
meant in
again,
general.
These are opinion questions.
Opinion
so,
question.
so you can't.
Well,
You
you can,
can be, in his eyes, you can be wrong with an opinion.
you know,
Okay.
yeah, like
Yeah.
my opinion is sky is green, you know, my opinion is that
It is green.
the water is not wet. It's my opinion. That's my
Okay,
opinion.
that's actually something
We've
Alyssa
had
and I
this-
disagree
yeah.
on. I
the
think
water is
water
not wet.
I think water's wet.
Oh, you know, water is not wet.
That's a huge thing. People-
Charlie's on my side. Thanks,
people-
Charlie.
No, that's
You
actually
see
a
that
big
there?
thing. People
You see that there? You can't be wrong on opinion.
Okay.
Whatever.
So we asked ChatGPT to give us some life-based questions, and this is what it came up with. I haven't
ChatGPT.
yeah. I haven't personally
Wow.
read the questions. Have you read them?
I briefly looked through a couple of them and was like, here we go.
Okay,
So-
so
Let's see.
these are deep.
I know.
I'm gonna actually start off with the second one. Do you believe in fate or free will? Melissa? Or
I should be last.
Okay. I want to start off by saying that a lot of how I view the world, I would say it was shaped primarily through like a Christian based thing, as well as once I kind of was able to develop my own thoughts and opinions. So when I hear fate, I often believe that, everything happens for a reason. If something comes up, I was always told, God has a plan, it's in God's plan. So I've kind of always been like, a fate person,
Mhm.
but I have definitely grown very, very strongly towards free will in this
Can you-
case.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound dumb, but can you explain like free will?
Like basically like, oh, I got this job or this position
you
because
worked.
of fate, like, or right, not, but like fate. Now, instead it's like, I worked hard or
Mhm.
I went to school and I did this, that's my own free will. I made that decision to make it
Okay.
happen, so I do believe in fate, but I think it's more of I was kind of grown to have that faith side of things.
Mhm.
As I've aged, I've realized a lot more free will.
I'm kind of on the same page as you. I believe in both. I believe in fate and free will. I think that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. If you do things the right way, you kind of set up your own future. So kind of a situation that we've been through recently is we've flown out of the state to look at properties, and that property was a disaster. But because we saw that property that was a disaster, we met someone else who was cooler, and every time something doesn't work out, it's because something better is supposed to happen. That's kind of how I view it, or it's not supposed to work out for a specific reason.
And you're asking me to answer the deepest question, the philosophy that has bothered us for
Well, there's deeper.
thousands of
There's deeper. I actually
thousands
started
of
with-
years. No, this is a very deep one. In a few minutes. Now, I'm going to give you an example, Alyssa.
Okay.
This guy. This is a real thing that happened. He injured somebody in violent rage.
Okay.
They found out he has a brain tumor closer to amygdala, which is our rage center and fear center. When they took the tumor out, he got better.
Mm-hmm.
He got considered by the court not doing of free will
Mm-hmm.
because he had a tumor there. And then he became violent again. And then when they looked at it, he had a revision, the tumor came back.
Oh.
Okay, recurrent of the tumor. Then they took it out and again, he became normal now. Was it free will or was it fate? Was it was he destined to do that violent act, or was he did he do it for free will? What do you think?
Okay, in this case, again, I would be able to debate you that, everything happens for a reason, God's plans.
Mhm.
No, I'm
But in
talking
this,
about
yeah,
the
in
court
this,
system.
yeah, in the court system, in this specific case, I don't think they consider that free will after they go through different pleas, whether it's insanity or whatnot.
So
But I do not
let
believe
me
that
tell
that,
you-
oh,
In all our legal system,
Yeah.
you cannot get away by telling to the court, God asked me to do that.
correct, I would
Right.
Doesn't
agree.
matter where your faith is coming from.
Right,
Irrelevant. God told you to go and do somebody harm. So we can't take the faith out of it
sure.
because we are in a society that truly we have to all abide by, and the law of the land consider that person not guilty.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking this more of just like a personal on
Yeah,
like
that's-
how I can justify both ways, whereas, does that mean that they're right?
What do you
But
think? What do you think?
when it comes, what
free,
was that?
was he, did he do violence of free will, or was he destined? What do you think?
I don't think either of those answers is the correct
So you
answer.
got no answer.
I have an answer, but I don't think
Tell
it's
me,
either
tell
of
me,
those.
tell me.
I guess I watch a lot of crime shows and stuff too, so that kind of doesn't help.
No.
But like you had kind of explained that we know as well that when a tumor can, arise, it messes with a lot of things and can completely change someone's ability to make decisions, their ability for right and wrong, which is in the legal system, how they come up with like an insanity plea is whether they had the ability to choose right and wrong at that time. Well, you
Yeah.
can choose that.
We have the court answer already. But I'm
were you
not
asking
asking
my-
you, I'm
yeah, my
asking for your
answer.
answer, yeah.
I gave it to you a couple times.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Well, what is the answer, I guess? So your
My answer is
Guilty or not guilty? Free will or not free will? He did harm. He did harm
Sure.
to somebody else.
I would say he is not guilty due to other things.
So he's
medical
not. So
circumstances.
Yeah, whatever
So
reason it is, I would not say
your
that.
opinion is that that was not a free will.
Correct.
Even though he lifted up a hammer, he smashed somebody's head, he did harm to somebody, that was not a free will, even though
Correct.
all the individual action were his.
Correct.
And he was awake, alert, oriented, he wasn't confused, he wasn't, under influence of any other, thing that we know of. He's like any other violent person,
Mhm.
but in your opinion,
Yes.
well,
If I
what do
was
you
a
think?
jury, I would say not guilty. That's my answer.
That is
This
what
a-
jury said.
This is a really tough one, and I think that he's guilty of hurting a person,
Mhm.
but I also think that he has a brain tumor that's impacting his decision making. So I don't think that although he has free will, he also doesn't have total control over his mind. I would compare it to someone who is severely disabled. They're going to get aggressive. They aren't getting aggressive because they want to be aggressive. They're getting aggressive because they have something wrong mentally.
Cognitive.
And that
yeah.
is exactly the point I'm going to through in the direction I'm going. Even all the other violent people, they don't have a tumor pushing on their amygdala. Their amygdala is hyperactive, and there is a physiologic correlation between how the amygdala and all the rest of your brain is connected to how you behave.
Mhm.
So you just made my point here.
Yeah.
So there are two thoughts in the philosophy regarding the free will. Are we okay?
No, yeah, we're good. I'm just pulling up
Okay.
ChatGPT.
So there are two train of thoughts there that even among the very religious group of people,
Mhm.
that God created the world and set it in motion, and everything after that is just like an automata.
Right.
That is that Newton, Isaac Newton, who was very religious. Lots of religious people think that because according to laws of physics, this molecule, they hit each other, and if you know the position and velocity of every atom in the universe, you can calculate how everything else has happened in the past and how everything else will happen in the future. They are complex things, but they are theoretically calculable.
Mm.
Now, there's something that we know in the last 100 years through Heisenberg uncertainty theory is that the position that is a law of the nature,
Mhm.
that the exact position and the velocity of one particle cannot be determined exactly, meaning that if you know exactly where it is, you don't know its velocity. If you know its velocity, you don't know its exact location. That is practically what it says. The uncertainty in the physical world is part of nature. I used to be like Newton that say, you know, everything is calculated, even though my actions are complex.
Mhm.
Well, I'm a nice person because I get in my brain get more reward by doing nice things. I'm violent because my brain is wired to do violent things. That our legal system doesn't work that way, by the way, you know, because in this case, he was violent, tumor was out, he got less violent, he got violent, and so on and so forth. So it was really correlation that you could say this is a chunk of tumor. That's why jury decided he's not guilty. He's still liable, but not guilty.
No, yeah,
That's a good word.
That's kind of, yeah, I agree with that.
No, and you can argument like, you know, you're a boring person because your serotonin system is low. And so on. There's always a mechanical correlate in our brain that make your action. So in that sense, everything is predetermined. The genes of your parent determine how you're going to be. And what happened in your childhood as well is determined because you meet people, they give you good feedback or bad feedback. It is the Newtonian way of thinking about that everything is predetermined. That doesn't exclude God, because those people who say that and are theologian, they say God set it up and set it in motion. The rest is, that's why God knows the future, because the future is already predetermined. The faith group that say it's all faith, it's all God's will, because God started the universe in a certain position that it was predetermined. Anything, Hitler was predetermined. The Holocaust is predetermined. Mother Teresa was predetermined. And it's just all those things that after billions of years take motion. Now, there's another group of people that says the uncertainty is built into our physical reality. What that means that you like that practical quantum theory, it is truly probabilistic. What that means is that, and there's method, there are physical experience that in one of the podcasts, we should do that to demonstrate how really realistic, how everyday that is, that you cannot, things can happen one way or another, and they are probabilistic, they are not predetermined. This is and that if that is true, that all of a sudden free will has a place in our life. But to understand that, you have to understand truly the probabilistic nature of particles and quantum theory. Then you understand that, yes, it is truly up to you to decide in one moment or another if it is free will or if it's all predetermined.
So you think it's not, you kind of think it is circumstantial then?
No, I don't think it's circumstantial. I think there are, at every moment, there's truly a probabilistic way I can decide A versus B. And truly, I can influence to be A or B because there's a probabilistic way to go either way, and I decide which way I go. Whereas the predetermined faith way, like many of the philosophers, including Isaac Newton, says it is all set in motion. We are, even though we think we are deciding it, but is the tumor in my brain or the connection that I got from my parent and so on, at the end of the day, they decide where to go. Now, this is one of the deepest questions in the philosophy. We are not going to be able to answer it today, not even to 1%, because then there will be no time for anything else. But
well, then the next question that kind of like rolls into that is, do you believe that everything happens for a reason?
I think that's similar. I mean, even just talking through this, having some thoughts,
Yeah.
I think fate, or quote happening for a reason, is maybe almost like a security blanket type of thing. I mean, obviously I will still say, yeah, I think, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And then I sit back and I think, do I actually think that? Or do I say that because we've kind of been taught that, like, if something goes wrong or something that goes not as planned, which whatever, maybe you can say, oh, but everything happens for a reason,
Mhm.
if someone passes away, you're like, it's okay, everything happens for a reason, it's kind of a way to, make someone feel better, whether
Yeah.
they believe it or not, which we get along with, that faith,
Mhm.
it's the whether blind leading blind, whatever makes you feel better.
Right.
So
Well, I do actually believe that everything happens for a reason. I think even if the reason isn't clear to you or you aren't directly impacted by that reason, there still is one.
sure.
Like even if it's a really negative situation, a lot of times doctors or other types of people learn from it. Laws come in place because things happen, and then there's a reason, and then we have more structure. I can see though that a lot of times it is a band-aid, like
Well, yeah.
the what the example that you gave, like your grandma passed, oh, everything happens for a reason. Well,
Or more traumatic, I was thinking,
Yeah.
like if I were to pass
or
away
a
tomorrow,
young
that's little-
child dies in
yeah.
a car accident, so that seems like
Why
it has no
me?
reason.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't have a direct reason, but it also could mean that seatbelts are improved or more traffic laws are made. I guess it's kind of our
I was gonna
responsibility to
say,
make it a reason and
thank
to
you.
give it a reason.
The second that is exactly what I was going to point out too, because I said, yeah, of course, like someone, had an accident and the seatbelt broke. So, well, let's fix the seatbelt. But as well as I do, I'm just going to take this a little, someone struggling with depression, say,
Yeah.
if something happens, they don't always have that drive to, oh, well, let's make it better.
Right.
They have that drive of, oh, something happened, and they don't have, oh, everything happens for a reason, it's going to be okay. It's like something happened. Oh, now something else is going to happen,
Mhm.
So I think
It's
it
tough,
very
yeah.
much has to do with how you are able to wire it and learn from it. And, so I think happens for a reason is, yeah, great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I hear you
He's ready.
laughing,
He's
waiting
ready.
for what you have to say. I do want to add something for our viewers. It's going to be really interesting because I'm an optimist.
yeah.
Are you kind of in the middle?
I consider myself a realist, but most of the time that comes off pretty pessimistic just because, the realness behind things typically is not the great happy-go-lucky. So I get told I'm pessimistic more than that, but I say I'm very real.
I picture you kind of
Yeah.
middle of the ground, whereas I
It depends
picture
on how I
him
feel.
What am I?
a little pessimist.
No, that's not a direction of thoughts. I'm a so-called existentialist.
Thanks. Okay.
We are not going to explain that today, what that really is. But if somebody knows, you go read Bertrand Russell, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Camus, then you understand what they're...
Or ChatGPT.
Charlie, if you're watching this, can you actually start making a list of all the books that Abbasi names so we can put
That's
that?
not book. These are philosophers.
Okay, you name a lot of books, so we can have a running list for people to go back and look on.
Yeah, I think that would be, so if you read them, you know what the existentialism is, and I'm existentialism. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you would not like. There is a physical reality in the world, and there is what we call causality. And this is proven thing. I mean, if the reason you can sit here and have this conversation and use all of this is because we understand the physical rules of causality. Now, let's go back to that. The rule of causality says the cause come before effect, meaning that this moved because I pushed it. I didn't push it because it moved.
Right.
So there's two ways to see into the reason for anything. There is always a reason for everything. But contrary to what you guys are describing, that reason is not in the future of the action. That reason is in the past of the action, meaning that we don't have an accident and oh, that is for a good reason and so on, because we will have seatbelt laws. We have seatbelt laws because people got hurt. So
Sounds like
see-
a chicken and egg type.
No,
of
it
thing.
is not a chicken and egg. It's a
No, to me.
causality because chicken and egg
No.
is a circular thing. By the way, chicken and egg, which one is first?
I have.
I'm
chicken,
not
so I
gonna
can
get it
had-
right.
We had eggs.
I'm gonna say chicken because I believe God put chickens on the earth.
But the eggs
I
have
got-
the-
No,
Well, I know
no,
the answer.
We had 500 million years.
Bacteria.
No, we had 500 years before we had chicken, we had eggs.
Probably.
No, we know that. We have fossil evidence. You see that there? That is, we have evidence of having eggs
I say no.
500 million years ago and so no more. But we have evidence having chicken just in the last few million years and so on and so forth. Or the chicken that we consider chicken because we had dinosaurs 65 million years ago and that so on and so forth. But causality says there is a cause that then there is an effect. That effect is after the cause. So
Right.
there is always a reason for everything, but that reason is not what most of people think.
Right. I
It's
would
not.
agree.
It's not to have a future this way and that way. It's not a promoter that let us suffer. As a matter of fact, that would be a cruel thing. Letting you have a little kid have a cancer, so the parent or somebody learns something from that. If there is a God, he cannot be that cruel. Okay. Now, but imagine now, if there is a biology who made us from one cell organism to who we are, that is what it is. That's a mutation. Mutation, that's what makes the kid have cancer. The mutation made that cell come to a circle of it cannot control its growth, circle and growth kind of situation, and turn that cell to cancer and let the 4-year-old child die. That is the tumor. That's a mutation. But the same mutation is the one that made one cell organism to multi-cell organism. And these are not theories in the sense people think what theories are.
Right.
This is what we know. Any medication you work on, you prescribe, is based on knowledge we know from that. Every cancer treatment is based on that. So the same process that gave the cancer to 4-year-old child made us who we are, the mutation. It is bad. The 99.999 time, but one time, 0.00001 time, that mutation becomes something useful, and all the bad thing they eliminate. The two bad tumor in patients in that 4-year-old child made that beautiful child die and never have children, whereas the one in many occasions that it's a good thing that survives and get passed on. We are the accumulation of the goods over billions of years. Now, and so you see that there is always a reason, but it's not what we think it is. It's not a future reason, it's a past reason.
Sure.
So do you think that humans are fundamentally good or bad?
You go.
What? Every
You're
time
always the
I
starter.
start,
Do you
then
want
they
me to
come and
start?
tell me
I
I'm
can
wrong.
start. I can
You start.
Because I know my view with the fundamentals is gonna get kind of religious again, and so I don't.
No, it's
I feel like-
okay. That's a fine.
That's fine. It's all about opinions. Just because he doesn't agree with you doesn't mean the world doesn't.
How do you know I'm not agreeing with her?
Because you
Because
told
you're
me I was
debate-
wrong.
About what?
Everything in that last question and I
Yeah.
answered.
I didn't say
Well,
you're wrong.
Maybe you should remember how we talked about sandwiching.
Sandwichy?
Yeah, you should try and
You're
say,
sandwiched now.
you should try and say
Yeah, be
like
good in between the bad,
like-
Amanda.
Yeah, you see a good and
I
bad.
am
Yeah,
intoxication.
you poor you.
Tense over
Okay,
here.
now, go ahead.
Okay, well, which was the question
Do you
again?
think humans are fundamentally good or bad?
I'm gonna take this kind of on the nature versus nurture type
Yeah.
of way. And we know genetics. We know how genetics get passed down. I'm just gonna go on a limb and say I believe more heavily in well, I shouldn't say that. God,
It's tough.
I think a person is born fundamentally good, or they're born, they're taught evil, or they're taught wrong, they're
Mhm.
taught, or they're put in the position to have people teach them right from wrong, so again, I'd like to think that coming out of the womb, again, based on like what I grew up knowing, everyone comes out being fundamentally good.
Okay.
So that would be without any back.
And
I would
you
say-
are right.
Well, you can't tell me I'm wrong.
I kind of agree with you somewhat,
It's tough.
but
Yeah.
I also don't agree with you. I think we're
Wow. No,
She
I
didn't
agree
tell
with
me
you.
I'm no.
You're wrong. She's saying you're wrong.
No, she just said she has
did
a
you
different
hear? I'm
opinion.
sandwiching.
Son-
I said I kind of do. I
that
kind
is
of
the
don't.
Minnesota way to say you're full of it.
No, I think we're born a blank slate. I think we're born neutral and good is different to everybody. To me, good is helping someone. To an extremist, good is helping someone else. So we're in my opinion, we're born neutral and our environment shapes us. So if you see good being
Do you
help,
know tabula rasa? That is what you're describing.
Yes.
Tabula rasa is
Charlie,
a
you get that?
fundamental philosophical discussion. It's interesting that three of us are sitting here, and only I have read a lot of philosophical books, and you with no kind of information about the philosophy, you're reciting things that philosophers have thought, dissected over centuries and thousands of years. So
there's
go ahead.
very few unique, rare thoughts. I think we're all thinking things that have been thought
Thought
before.
before.
Yeah, but no, I mean, this is interesting that, to come to these fundamental concepts, you just need an intuitive mind
Mhm.
to come to that. You don't need to read those books, which I did, but you can come to that with your own kind of,
You can come to it with observations and life
Yeah.
experience.
That's the beauty
but
of
go ahead.
opinions.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
get to form them yourself.
but then we have to dissect them now, because everybody's opinion is good, but then eventually we have to decide, how do we want to run the society?
Yeah.
Do we run the society based on your opinion, my opinion, or her opinion?
Or the general consensus, like
No, general
weighing
consensus
it out, and whatever
Mhm.
whatever is the heaviest
You
thing
know,
that most
that
people
you're
agree
talking
with.
about the true democracy. True democracy is evil, because the true democracy in Second World War was saying you should kill all the Jews, and in Germany. Okay, true democracy meaning that weighing the opinion of all people. No, there are fundamental ways, like that default philosophies. You have your opinion, I have my opinion, you have your opinion, but what is the fundamental ways to come to a truth that is good for society as a whole? And true democracy is not one of them, because imagine what if every single person in the United States says we should go and kill somebody. It's still against our.
Not always. What about what we do all the time in other countries for war? Like we're killing literally innocent people
Well,
all the time.
Majority of the US are most of them okay with that.
That's
That is
I'm
what we are
saying.
doing. So that's what I'm saying as well. You're repeating what I'm saying, that the true democracy is not
No,
always
I'm
needing.
saying that.
You're twerps. I should charge you for coming to this.
Charge
Yeah,
us?
You're torturing us. You're torturing me and myself and my brain. You're torturing us.
Charlie,
Yeah.
write that down.
All of them.
All of us. You're torturing all of us.
Okay, so what's your view? Do you think that humans are fundamentally good, or
First of all, that is the point. You cannot define what good and bad
Yeah.
is.
I agree.
You cannot. Because once you get to think something that you think is good, if you go on bottom of it, it might be bad. Like,
Mhm.
you see somebody's pushing somebody, that it's bad. Then you see, no, he's pushing it because something else is falling from the sky in his head. No, it's good. Now, that thing that's falling from the sky is a little baby that otherwise would
Yeah.
be dead. And so, no, it's bad. And now that baby would be Hitler. And now it's
Yeah.
good again. No, you see that there, it's a rabbit hole without the end. So you cannot, and philosophers are very good at identifying that this childish idea of good and bad doesn't really apply to, but I'm with you on that you said you are born, and there is a good philosophical direction that says we are empty slate. As a matter of fact, tabula rasa is the Latin for empty slate, empty tablet, that you can write on it whatever you want to write. And that is lots of theologian and so on. They think we are good. Lots of rationalists, they say we are a tabula rasa, meaning you can just write on a society can form us and so on. And then the truth is probably somewhere between. But what we know from lots of studies, even with monkeys and chimps, we are social animals, and the social interaction is hardwired to our DNA. Like chimps, they rather lose everything than admit to a bad deal. Chimps, like, when they have a fine, the alpha chimp makes sure that obviously he get the most of the food, but he makes sure everybody gets something. And if they conceive something is not fair, they rather lose everything than commit this is actually a very nice study. And this we have studied, we know all about that. They have two chimps in two cages. There's a table between. If they cooperate, they can both get food, but each can topple the table. The table is unstable, that they can, if everything falls on the floor, nobody gets anything. If one of the chimp thinks that something is not fair, they topple, they lose at the cost, they don't let the other one get anything at the cost that they lose everything as well. And they have done those studies with children as well. At a certain age, it is hardwired. There are few things hardwired to our brain. The language is hardwired. Even if you put 5 kids in a place that they have no access to any language, they will develop their own languages. We could develop language before we could actually talk, sign language and so on. And they have done those, and there are another thing that eventually around the age of 4, there is a very interesting kind of experiment. You can do it with your children when you see them. It's called the Sally test. I'm not going to go through that, but write down Sally test, where you can find out when the child discovers the concept of lying and deception. We are born without the concept of lying and deception. That is something we eventually learn, okay? So we are born as a social animals, as a good social animals, but we learn our opportunities are limited that way. Like if everybody knew my feeling about them, that every place would be empty.
The lights would be off.
The lights would be off everywhere. But that doesn't just apply to me.
Right.
Any of you, doesn't matter if you're Mother Teresa or something, okay? If everybody knew your inner thoughts, you would starve to death alone.
A lot of people have that, like, honestly, adults have not come to that realization that just because you have a thought or a feeling doesn't mean it needs to be expressed. And they suffer because of that. They burn bridges, ruin relationships.
That, I mean, when you make it into human, then it makes me go back to what Dr. Bassi was saying about the chimps. We see that in humans too. We don't see it necessarily in the food. You and me, if we saw a piece of pizza, we could split it without throwing it on the floor. But you see that in like bigger things like,
Business.
If you can't go here and do this with me, well, then no one can.
Yes.
Or,
Then you can't go anywhere with me. Yeah.
Right. I say we see that all the time, even with, people.
Considering we are made as social being, and we know what's conducive of social interaction and what's not, it is hardwired to us to do things that are conducive to that social thing, what you would call good. I just call it, the aim-oriented.
Sure.
So I'm with you on that. And I'm much more I'm very optimistic about the future of humanity. I'm just not optimistic about my own future or individual futures. So
I have a question. Hold on. You just said you're not as optimistic about your own future. I'm not going to go into details on that. But then earlier,
go to details. What do you want to know?
said something about, you believe in free will. So if you're not as optimistic about your future, but you also believe in free will, then don't
have you seen how I live?
I do, but I also know you choose how you live.
No, but I chose to live this way.
Correct. Yeah. So
I chose to live this way, and I probably will give myself another 7 years and I'm going to have a heart attack or something.
Stop.
No, but that is, no, see the way I live, if somebody knows how
That's
I work.
optimistic, right?
No, see, I have,
Different strokes for different
I am
folks.
very optimistic about the future of humanity. We are going to ascend our all limitation. We are going to be, that is the reason I think if the alien ever come to Earth, they will be benevolent,
Yeah,
because those aliens that are not benevolent, they never make it out of their own solar system. They destroy themselves long time ago. It's just the rules of engagement.
Oh.
Okay, and for humanity, just things that were done even 30 years ago, we would be shocked if they were done. Look at the human history. Another person you should definitely read is Steven Pinker. And definitely that's somebody you should read. Humanity has been never safer, never less hungry, never healthier, never more benevolent than we have been today. And that is not personal feeling. That is based on statistic.
yeah. I actually think about this often with Gen Z. I think it's so beautiful. Like the acceptance that they've created.
Oh,
Yeah. And
I mean, we can go on that just for a quick second because I love that more than anything
Yes.
too, because we see it a lot because we do a lot through social media. So we're able to see different sides of the country every day, all the time. But I say that I think every single day I point out one thing that's just like, I'm thrown just because growing up in South Dakota and now Midwest and like I'm sorry, getting a little sappy. I agree. Gen
No, I cried.
it is very exciting to see the changes in the acceptance.
too.
Okay, we can be optimistic here and talk about
It's
all
so
the
cute.
beautiful things.
You guys are so cute.
It's so cute what they've done. Seriously.
Look at that.
Hey.
That's so cute. Well, let's go.
Like they just really accept each other. Like they're so them. It's just so sweet.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
it's exciting though.
it is good to be alive today.
Yeah.
It's better than any time before. And I don't see any reason that trend should stop. Neither the data sees any reason. Your children, your grandchildren, and the people in the next generation, they will look at us as savages.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
They already do.
Yeah. No, they
No,
do.
I'm
No,
talking
they-
about something
They
else.
look at the like boomer generation is pretty savage.
No, I just want to know, 100 years ago, it was the rule of, it was normal to march in a country, take their land away just 100 years
Mhm.
ago.
Well,
Mm,
100
before
years
Second
ago,
World
we
War.
couldn't even vote, could we?
No,
We couldn't do anything. We barely
Yeah.
could even wear pants.
you weren't. No, you weren't wearing pants
No,
either.
we
You weren't
wouldn't-
working the job either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
100 years
so
ago.
that,
going
to
and
college,
look at
high
how far
school.
Yeah.
look at how far we have come in just last 100 years.
Right.
There is no reason to believe that this trend will stop. So that is what exactly. Go read Steven Pinker, and then you get the data on that. And then, if you're a pessimist, I think the reason you see me often as a pessimist, you see my personal feeling toward, my own future, and we know what my future is. I am at more than 2/3 through my life cycle in a trend that we know what it is for everybody else, and so on. And I'm in a rush to do as much good as I can do in little time I have.
So
left.
do you think that the world is a good place then, based on what you said you do?
Yeah, it's going to get better and better. So you see that there? I'm with you on that.
I think the world is a good place for some people and it's a bad place for others.
I was gonna say, you take 3 more different people, if you're gonna get 3 different answers on that question too.
Now,
That's the beauty of it.
let's
Yeah.
come back to that 70% of the people have been in poverty, meaning starvation poverty, just 50 years or 70 years ago. That number is about below 10% now. That is
I don't think that's true.
Are you talking United States or
no
the world?
I'm talking about the world.
Okay.
So which part of that do you think I'm
That
not
only
right?
10% of the world is in poverty.
Do you know what poverty is defined? Less than $1 per day income by United Nations standards. These are, I'm talking about the poverty at the level that there are, starvation level poverty. That number has decreased tremendously in just last 50 years. Again,
Yeah.
you'll go read Steven Pinker.
Yeah, I'd
okay? These
agree
are
that it's definitely
numbers.
decreased. I'm with her on the 10% blows my mind too.
But 10%
But-
still one
So
in
that
10.
I actually might have to look that up.
I am gonna.
Yeah,
look
look
that up.
it up. Look it up.
Yeah.
But you can read one of Steven Pinker's books or listen to one of his talks, and he will provide that data.
Yeah.
And at the statistical levels. But Pearson,
Oh,
that is you typing
Yeah,
like me.
okay,
now.
let's not go there.
Like, no, you're typing like me. I think the influence goes both
You're sitting
ways.
too close to me. That's why it's rubbing off.
But
Yeah,
Yeah, there you
okay.
go. Oh,
9.2% of the world's population are living on a daily income of less than $2.15.
they have increased that because of inflation. This used to be $1.
Yeah, probably when you read it.
Yeah. So I want them.
No,
I want an apology and a handshake.
I'm good.
oh, I was gonna say
The
not for
bow-
me either.
Bow to my.
I guess I just maybe.
But I love it. See, that is what I'm talking about. She hears it from me, but she is able to go and fact check it.
Mhm.
And that is the beauty of 2023. That is exactly what I'm talking about. She doesn't have to accept my numbers. She can go and check it out.
And
This is-
you're used to that. People
No.
not.
Yeah,
that
you're
is-
used to that.
But that's exactly what makes the future better than past.
Yeah.
That you don't have to take my word for it. The whole world at your fingertips, within few seconds, you can get the data, and that is what enable us to be resistant
I just say
to
even
demagogy.
let's talk about like what we're doing right now. Is we're on YouTube making a podcast talking about different things. I mean, us alone, we've kind of explored different parts of our brains than, I mean, at least myself,
Yeah.
maybe not you. But that's what we're doing is we're getting those things out there, and you say, oh, this person, this book, this, that word, your ex to whatever. I'm gonna look.
What?
I'm a realist. She's a
Oh,
Ex-
existentialist.
yeah, that
The ex-
you will not tell us.
So
Yeah,
Ex-
you will not
Ex-
we always have a definition of that. So I know I'm gonna go look it up. So
Yeah.
it's like, even just the little things like us causing people to look things up, causing people to expand their thinking, their thoughts. Amanda comes to me almost every day and goes, oh, I learned this on a podcast. So I
Mhm.
learned this from whatever she did, but she's learning, which
Yeah, I
puts
love
her on top
learning
of
for my
everyone
pods.
else that's not putting in some effort. So
Yeah, every time we do this podcast, I do learn something new. Usually I think we're talking about a topic I wouldn't have thought of ever.
And I learned a lot of human interaction
Yes.
that I have to sandwich, not telling people they're wrong, even when they are, that I have to sandwich it, like,
we're
like,
just gonna learn the definition of opinions
Yeah, we can do that on a
another
different
day.
day.
yeah.
So this is actually an interesting one. Most of these are things that I do think about actually kind of often, but this one isn't. What is the purpose of art?
That's so okay. When you say art, are we talking all art from music to painting to
all
writing
art,
to
all
okay.
art.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're not just
Yeah.
talking. Well, I
Not
always
just
kind of
painting,
start.
Not just yeah.
I know
You're the starter.
I know you're gonna have a great answer on this because Amanda is very artistic. I consider myself very creative, not
You're
necessarily artistic.
And I'm
But when you
and
do
I'm
it, you do a good
autistic.
job.
They're artistic and I'm autistic.
Okay. Beyond that,
No one's gonna
okay.
deny it.
I guess okay, I want to make sure
Okay,
the purpose
so
of art.
Purpose of art.
I think art was originally okay. Let's go back way back. Before we had words, they used pictures.
Yes.
They did hieroglyphics. They did art was here probably
They-
way before.
Told stories through
far?
music and beats.
Don't ask me how far. 'cause
170,000 years ago, we have evidence of.
There.
He was,
I cannot show you this on the camera, but you can, you can.
Put the camera,
No,
Charlie.
no.
write that down. So
Oh, you don't see
basically,
it.
I guess
You don't
I-
see it.
The purpose of art, I believe, was, originally it was a form of communication, a form of this. But then, we get more into the music and, music is used in everyday things. It's used in religious, it's used in ceremonies, it's used,
Yeah.
that's so, but they talk about art as in,
Knitting. Music and most of the thing is,
okay.
but go ahead.
No, I guess I was just thinking more like they talk about art and you hear a lot about getting art out of the school systems or
Mhm.
defunding art.
Yeah.
And I guess I went to a 4-year undergrad before, which, a lot of people do. And in those courses, they make you take a lot of classes that you seem not important. And a lot of those, are kind of those literature and those art classes.
Mhm.
But that's when you learn about humanity. That's when you learn, who you are through different people, through different ages. I took a class solely on animation and movie making throughout the years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't
Oh, wow.
necessarily by choice, but again, I had to take credits
Oh,
in the
are we
arts.
putting it to good use?
And no,
You should.
do you want to make silent movies? I watched.
Why
a couple-
not?
Okay.
Animation and so on. I love it. Let's do it.
So I guess I just think art has been one of those things that has changed so many times, and we're at the place where it's the same place that it was before. It's in the eye of, quote, the beholder. They say that all the time. Art is open for interpretation. And that's the beauty of art. But we see art in clothing. We see
Yeah.
art in behind us. Art is not just a form of
Good
expression
job, by the way.
anymore.
These two
you
girls
know.
did that.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
this question of what is the purpose of art, again, I would just
So
say
many-
it's whatever you want it to
Yeah,
be.
there's so many. I
You
totally
can
agree with
use
you.
it
many
literally children's
purposes.
books or in the background on a wall.
Art is a good form of expression. So if you don't know how to have your words come out of your mouth, you can paint it or you can sculpt it. It's used for storytelling, like in historical times when they would, like you said, do cave drawings and kind of explain stuff through art.
I got one.
Yeah.
Like
The
This-
first art
this
wasn't
exam-
cave drawing though.
this, no, this example is kind of like, I love music. I
Mhm.
listen to music all the time.
What, Western and country?
I do not listen to
We've been
country.
listening to country.
Western?
No,
No?
Amanda's
No, there's
kind
a
of there.
joke. They say, what kind of music do you listen to? All kind of music, Western and country. Is that funny? Come on, that's funny.
I don't,
You
I
don't get it?
actually don't get it.
Okay, so somebody asked this another person, what kind of music
I-
do you
I-
listen to? The next person says to all kind of music, Western and country. You get it?
That you just explained the joke.
It's
You
just
just said the
the
same
same
words 2
thing.
times in a row. Like you
So
putting it on the
for that
side of the
person-
table,
for
okay,
that
let me-
person- for that person, country and Western are all kind of music. There's no other.
Those are the only.
They say all the
kinds.
kinds of.
I mean, you
Okay,
totally
Part
massacred
of
my
this
joke.
thing
It
was,
wasn't a good
was
joke.
that I
Massacred
love music
my
my entire
joke.
life. I love singing and dancing. And I was the person that used music to learn and all the time, whether it was school, whether it was, outside sports, whatever, whether it was putting music on in the background to get me motivated to go do something,
Mhm.
making songs to study algorithms and test mnemonic stuff. Yeah, I did that. And I don't know if I would be the same person if I wouldn't had those types of ways to,
Yeah, I
learn.
can tell you're getting really anxious. Do you want to just
Okay.
answer the question?
No, you guys go.
Because you're not paying attention.
I am. I'm looking at you in the TV because then I don't have to bend my.
Well, what do you think is
Next.
the purpose of art?
What percentage of what we do is our emotion and intuition and our unconscious versus conscious? What do you think?
what percent do I do of based on
I
my
think we
emotions?
do
Yeah,
like
yeah,
70% of things based on emotion.
More. I would
80?
say, no, I mean, I don't have a number, but I think it's more than 98%.
Okay.
2% of we are conscious, like the heart is beating. This is, I'm just throwing the number.
Sure.
Our heart is beating, or we are perspirating, you get angry, you don't know why. There are less than, I think, in my opinion, less than 2% of what you do is your conscious language-based
Mm.
action, things that you can describe in a language. Mass majority of who we are is our unconscious, subliminal kind of existence. And language to our mind, a conscious mind, is the same as art to our unconscious
Well,
mind.
you love poetry. Poetry is a form of art.
But the poetry is exactly bastardizing the language. Poetry is truly you turn the picture, you turn the word to something that they absolutely not what they mean. Like, and I'm describing the sadness with a valley that is dry and so on. Valley that's dry has nothing to do with sadness.
But you
So
don't need to.
I'm conveying emotion with the words, but and in a way that the words themselves become meaningless. So art to our unconscious existence is like language for conscious existence. And it developed long before language. We have evidence of that. Those first art that was discovered, they weren't drawing on cave and so on, they were beads. Those beads, they were found, I don't recall again where, but they were found beads that they have a hole to wear them and so on, or that they had no function and so on and so forth. But there are few things we know about the few things that are important to our existence. Again, subliminal, nothing that you can express. Like there is a video, actually, I did a TikTok about that. There is this about these birds bring beads from different places, make a nest, and then female come look at the beads, and if they like the beads, they stay there, and then the male start dancing, very intricate dancing and so on. And based on that bird decide if they want to mate with the male or not, based on the beads and the dance. Okay, now I'm pretty sure that the birds is not thinking, oh, look at lots of beads and look at how he's dancing. It is subliminal. It's in their practical, in their instinct, like makeup. You know, you put makeup, and we have those studies well done, well described, that, you know, if you put contrast, you become more vital, you become more like childbearing age, and we don't talk about it. We don't even have to understand that for that to work on our subliminal being. And we know that the art has developed when we learned how we can manipulate our subliminal being with different methods. It include music, it include dance, it include makeup, and lots of the artistry is from like long before we even knew that. Now people start, you know, putting darker thing around their eyes or more lips. Like, do you know what it really is? Like, if I look at your lips, you have maybe a more reddish lipstick than you, and so on,
Lipstick.
or whatever
None of
it's
us
called,
are wearing lipstick.
whatever they're called.
It's natural.
That means, oh, good for
Natural.
you.
My
It's
pigment?
That means your hemoglobin is, if let's say you didn't have a makeup, if you don't, both of you didn't have the makeup at all, and your lips are more red, that means your hemoglobin is higher. Now, which one would be better for creating a chocolate?
Higher.
The one with the higher hemoglobin and so on and so forth. So we don't even really know that.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have to know that. We don't even have to know that for that to work on our subconscious. And the art is utilizing all our subconscious, all our emotions, all our thing
I'm
to
kind of glad you just said that when you said like it's an art of doing this, because we hear that phrase all the time. And I played sports, which most people don't, you know,
Yeah.
necessarily say, oh, basketball is an art. But you know, when you play it and stuff, we hear that all the time on how, oh, you got to get the art down. You know, it's all
Yeah.
about the touch, it's the art, you know. So it's like you start talking about this, and I go, you know, at this point, like what anything you do, like what isn't an art? You know,
Yeah.
like
Let me tell you a true story. About 20 years ago, I went with Incan to one of these cowboy bars. They have these mechanical cows. And, I got on one of those mechanical cows. I lasted probably 1.5 seconds.
Do you
And
have
it
a
was-
video of it?
No, there weren't no more videos then, but it was miserable.
Yeah.
There's what another guy, it was like 7 levels or something like that. I forgot. He went all to the end, but he did not put his hand on that thing before the 5th level. I was there. I'm a good observer of human being.
Mm-hmm.
He could have walked out of that place with every single woman he wanted, including my that time girlfriend. You see that there? He shows how harmonically, how in control of his reflexes is. No, but none of those women thought about, look at the reflexes, look at the brain, look at the good genetic. All they saw that he was moving with the mechanical car and mechanical ball, and he was harmonic, symmetry, harmony, and so on. But that all translate to an underlying need of us for mating and to produce children that are viable and so on and so forth. That is hardwired in our DNA. Now, having said that, art, dance, and so on and so forth, it just shows our flight of our mind and flight of our body. So in a way, it's a well known that, that the people in the football, very successful people in the sport, then everybody wants to have a piece of them, if you know what I mean, because that is hardwired in our nature. That is natural to want to be with them. Just in the last 50 or 100 years, we take the flight of mind as well, or a few hundred years. We say that people are so attracted to the flight of mind. Do you know why? Because we figured out with those flight of mind, all of a sudden you can bring so much wealth to the game that all those physical attraction become meaningless. Like, good, you can jump 9 feet.
Sign me up.
You can hire someone to.
No, my salary is $1 million. I hire 5 people who jump 9 feet and so on. Just in the last few hundred years in human history, or that flight of mind would translate so directly in the survivability that all of a sudden, if you have a certain level of income, you don't really have to be good looking good and so on. They did those studies as well, that if you have certain level of income and financial ability, you are rated 3 to 4 points in the 10 scale higher and so on and so forth. Now, art is a kind of flight of mind. Who want to be with a hillbilly person who can dance, doesn't appreciate art?
Somebody that is also a hillbilly.
Yeah, someone who is the same mind.
Yeah, but it is at least in this century and in this millennium, flight of mind. That is what I call the art, flight of mind. That the mind can elevate itself from physical reality, can translate directly in the survivability. Your children are going to be much better. Your children are going to be lawyers and artists and engineers, and they're going to have better future. Your children with that kind of person will have a better future, so that 6.5 foot and very strong but really dumb all of a sudden become
I
less.
have a
To me, that's the zero.
question. Well, I guess I was more curious, like you said, but more back in the day, you have the intuitions, you have this, and kind of like, this is how things are. With kind of the world we're living in, you say like you're kind of getting more past that, but that's kind of how we're wired. Like you would say, like we're all kind of wired.
We still
But
think that
now-
person's attractive, but
now
You're
like,
careful.
You'll see things that weren't as common back then, like you see women being taller than their husbands. Back in the day, that wasn't, like you said, you look for the taller man that could protect you and bring money in this, now that's kind of like, I mean, yes, to some extent, but you see like
Interracial.
interracials, yeah, you didn't see that, and like disabled people as well. You know, I have followed people on TikTok who are married to people in wheelchairs, you know, who are like that before. You know, it wasn't like it used to be, oh, my husband got in an accident, now he's in a wheelchair. You know, these people are finding love
Yeah.
and acceptance,
Mhm.
not in that physical nature of
Do you see
I
why
need
we have to
money,
be
I need
futuristic, optimistic?
it, you
Here
know,
you are.
it's things like that you know happen, you know, to some of us gradually. I've seen it gradual. To my older relatives, it seems like it happened
It's
overnight.
Yeah, to them it's outrageous.
Mhm.
So I think again, that's the beauty of the mind that I think is evolving, is that we're able to kind of see that, because we didn't necessarily see the, you know, a man has to be this, and this compared to his woman, or provide this,
For a
this, and
long
this,
time,
or
women
woman
didn't have
and
a
woman.
saying in that anyway.
You know,
For a long time, even in US and Western societies, women had no saying in that anyway.
it's fair.
Yeah, and this is a new development that women even can choose their partners.
But you know that their parents would be choosing their partners, which
And they
they
would-
would be making decisions that would put them at the best, you know, chance possible, which
According
means
to them.
tall, you know, has
No,
money.
that was
has-
never money and wealth. And obviously, that has been always the choice of the parent
Mhm.
for a long time. I mean, some societies still is.
Yeah.
Okay. So the choice of the parent, and those choice of parent, you'd be surprised. Those marriages last longer than love marriages in the West anyways.
I've
But
heard that.
But no, that's a fact. That's a statistical fact.
They kind of a lot of times learn to love each other, don't they?
They do.
And
that
they become
yeah.
really happy.
Or you-
Is what I've heard.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
that
I
happens.
think a
all
lot
the
of that
time.
comes back down to our fate versus free will.
Yeah.
You know, when you know, like you're getting married and your options are to learn to live, you adapt, you
Yeah,
make
that's-
life
That's
Mhm.
true.
happen.
That's-
Whereas when you have free will, and I know I'm not happy
But-
here, I can walk away.
But still, the personal preferences has been always tall and strong and so on. That as well is changing.
Yeah, it is.
That, you know, like you're okay, you're tall, you're strong, you go work out, your muscle, ooh, great. Yeah, sexually exciting. But do I want to be really in relationship with maybe a one night stand, but do I really want to have children with you? No, thank you. That is a truly, we are moving to that flight of mind kind of situation. And coming back to your question, the art is the flight of mind that enable us to estimate somebody's, you know, ability to beyond what's directly visible.
Sure.
Mhm. Do you want to answer one more question?
It is very interesting, but I think I have another meeting coming up,
You have
right?
15 minutes.
I have 15 minutes. If you say so, boss, then I have
Let's
15
see.
minutes.
We'll
Melissa,
let
do you
we'll
wanna
let
choose?
you answer.
No, no,
Melissa,
I
you choose.
Okay. You know which one I'm gonna ask, because
Really? Oh my God, that's the one I was kind of waiting, but we can do that.
I want to
No,
do
we
this
can do
one
that
because I have a
I'm
thought on
curious
it,
your- yeah.
because I've gone through this 1,010,000 times. This question is,
I was wondering.
is it better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all? I am a very emotionally connected person, so I have had many of my loves and losts, or so, you know, it felt real, and it was real. But I guess after, you know, I'm 25 and I'd like to say I've been through the book, but I haven't. I've definitely learned that life is more about the journey, and
Yeah.
we need to see life as a journey, not the destination. You know, our goal, everyone wants to feel loved. Everyone wants to have those. It's in our natural, you know, chemistry. We talk about that. But I definitely would have to go out there, live the life, get the experience.
Get
If
the
that,
loss.
you know, if that means, you know, loss, which it could be anything. We know naturally that death happens at the end of life.
Mhm.
Well, I know that my grandparents should pass away before me. That does not mean that I want to spend less time with them, not grow that bond with them, because I know that love that I gain is gonna at one point, quote, be lost.
Yes.
No, it's not the same as if, you know, you had a boyfriend that you broke up with and the love is lost. But I definitely do not think that there's any anything that's actually lost. I think you're gaining more
Yeah.
than you're losing,